Hi, welcome to Life at Your Own Will podcast. I'm your host, Will Venus, and today I'm again joined by my husband, Jay. Jay, how are you?
I'm fine, how are you all? Especially in Cup.
Come a bit closer to the mic. Yeah, we're big in sick up. Anyway, today's episode is going to be about my alcoholism. So I thought it would be interesting to ask the person that I'm closest to about what his experience was like during my drying out days. That was almost 7 years ago, so that's why I thought it would be interesting to do this podcast now rather than do it in May, because May is like my soberversity. I think that's what they call it. Yeah, and after that, I want to do other things. So, this podcast episode, it's going to be for someone who wants to learn about someone who has alcohol issues, or for someone who's close to someone who's got issues with alcohol, or just anyone. I realise that there's other people out there that like listening to people's experiences. So, where do I begin, Jay?
I think,
lead, lead, lead
well,
me.
I'll. We met 7 years ago in February, and obviously you didn't know at the time you were having a certain brand of cider.
Yeah,
I'm not mentioning the brand because there's many available. And you were having that a few glasses a day. You were not getting drunk so much. You were just a bit more than tipsy.
yeah.
And I
Well,
think
I have a different perspective, but on you go.
no, you weren't. No, you weren't fully on drunk at all. Like you're just a wee bit tipsy, like a bit more than that maybe. But then you kept going into hospital quite a bit because of the level it was,
Yeah,
and and obviously you ended up getting pancreatitis.
yeah. So I mean, I'll try and go back to the start. Like I started, well, I dabbled with alcohol when I was say in my late teens, and then it got to be a real problem for me in my mid to late 20s. So yeah, 7 years ago, I just decided that I was really tired of alcohol because I I didn't. It was kind of one of those things where it controlled me. I didn't control it, you know. And so by that point, when I met you, I had my alcohol had because I was so dependent on it. My alcohol levels had to be at like a certain level before I started to feel extremely ill.
Yeah,
Do you understand?
yeah,
Because I find it interesting. Like when I see people on social media or like on YouTube and things, and like yeah, this is my alcohol journey. This is what I've did. I don't quite understand what it takes for that person to get through the day without drinking, or for their sobriety journey. I mean, sobriety, it's not like a linear thing. I mean, some people lapse, some people relapse. That's fine. But for me, it's almost been 7 years of like complete sobriety. Like, there's not even been a sherry trifle or anything like that. Like, or any foods that I try that are new, I actually check the back of the packages to make sure that there's no alcohol in it. I know that some people say, well, yeah, when you cook certain foods, the alcohol it burns off, but that's not quite true because there is some residual alcohol in it. And some people say, well, if because I like the taste of beer and things, and some people say, well, why not have the alcohol-free beer? But the alcohol-free beer isn't completely alcohol-free. It will be 0 point
yeah,
something.
and you'll
And
then get a
for
taste of it
me,
afterwards.
one drink isn't enough, and two is too many.
Yeah,
And I can always, I mean, I can see it. That's what I'm just so frightened of it. I don't, I won't have a drink because I know that it will lead to a life I used to have, which that life for me, I didn't have any friends, I didn't make any contact with anyone, didn't have any interests. It was just a case of getting up in the morning, having the shakes, having a drink to get rid of the shakes and all the other terrible symptoms that comes along with alcohol withdrawal, and just drinking throughout the day up to 4 liters of strong cider at some points.
yeah.
And so by that time, like when I met you, what? Because you hadn't really been around any alcoholics
Besides,
apart from a relative, but
yeah, that's all. Yeah, I mean, I did was clueless because I didn't know because you did it at night, so I never really realised because I wasn't there that often at night to begin with. So obviously, but yeah. So when it spiraled, me and your auntie went to visit you. in the hospital and we were trying to explain you need to stop it now. But it was the second time you had the major.
I can't remember any of this.
Basically, when I that time Mum had the lung infection. She was in the Western. You were there. I had to go down. I'll never forget this. I always bring it up because it's a good point. I had to go to the Western General and then to the Royal Infirmary and vice versa every day for like 2 weeks or something like that because you were in, Mum was in, and fair enough, my family were always on holiday and they're all busy. They were fine. They did come and they cared, but certain people didn't come and visit. Visit you. They didn't bother. They came.
Yeah, but I mean, looking back on that, I
Yeah.
can understand why they didn't bother because I mean, I don't want to mention certain people because I have had to build relationships afterwards and things, but I just get it why they didn't come because they didn't want to witness all that chaos. And also, I looked really ill because I mean, there's pictures on my Instagram and things if you want to check it out. I've pinned one of the posts. In fact, I had got to just under 7 stone because I developed chronic and then acute pancreatitis, which meant my pancreas, it was just severely inflamed and my body wasn't digesting any food. And also, I wasn't interested in eating.
No, you were. You were.
I just wasn't looking after
You ate
myself
a
at
little
all.
of it.
Yeah. I mean, if you looked at me now, you'd think, eh?
But
Because I'm literally like twice the person
that's
that I
because a
was.
certain doctor didn't explain how to cut down all the things you had to eat, and the
Yeah,
thing.
but we'll get to that shortly. But I mean, when I got to like I still remember that point when I was sat on that sofa that's still in our living room. It's teal, and I bought it because it was called the Aphrodite. And anyone that knows me, I'm obsessed with Aphrodite and Venus and things, hence the name. But yeah, I can remember being sat there in pain, and I just thought, I am so fucking tired of this. I'm tired of it. I'm just ready to let it go, but I didn't know how to let it go. Because for some people, when they give up alcohol, it's really dangerous if they don't get help. So please, if you're considering giving up alcohol or drugs or whatever that you're dependent on,
Or
please go.
cigarettes.
Well, maybe not cigarettes because you can give up those without.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Uh, oh, he's so innocent. He doesn't know about addictions. He's never been around it. Bless him.
Oh,
And also, you don't drink either at all, do you, Jay? Why is that?
just because it's in solidarity with you and not. I just don't like the taste. Actually, I just don't like the taste of alcohol.
Yeah, you just don't like
And
the
it
taste.
must be an autistic central thing. I do not like
Well,
alcohol.
I'm autistic and I love it.
Well,
Well, I
yeah,
used to love it,
and
but I
what
can't have any
and
now.
what I remember though is the funny pills you used to take, the enzymes called Creon,
Yeah.
2000 or what it was called.
So because I wasn't able to digest any food, because if I attempted to eat any food, I would just throw it up. And before that, I was throwing up to 30 times a day, which is why my teeth are completely yellow. Because the enamel's been worn off them. When the enamel wears off, it goes down to the yellowness of the insides of the teeth.
Yeah,
And where was I going with that? Yeah,
Creon.
so because my body wasn't producing any digestive enzymes, I was given these tablets called Creon, and they, I would say, really helped because they enabled me to be able to eat again.
Yeah,
Because I remember I started off building myself up, and I started by drinking cup of soups. I was drinking like
yeah,
4 cup of
and
soups
you
a
got
day,
given
and I got given this diet sheet by the hospital, and oh my god, it had some of the most enjoyable foods on it. So
yeah,
I was told to eat things like cream, milk, chocolate, crisps, bread,
yeah,
pasta, everything.
and also
Like
you
all the good bad things, if
and
that makes
you got
sense.
given these shakes. They've
Yeah, the
yeah,
nutrition shakes.
you got given them as well. Yeah, and you liked
I
them.
forgot about that.
Yeah,
That was I had got a prescription to go to the chemist for those, eh?
you did. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and also
I didn't like the chocolate flavored one, but I loved the vanilla
and the
one
banana
and
one.
the banana and the strawberry.
Yeah,
Those were good.
and I mean,
And I remember my nana used to get those when she was a bit thin.
yeah, I remember one time before I was from one place I was working. You were in the Western because you got transferred there back and forth. You had to get your stomach liquid removed because it was, and again, and they
Oh
were,
yeah,
yeah,
I'd got fluid in my stomach and in my back.
yeah,
Remember that?
yeah,
I can remember being being told to sit upright while they drained this fluid from my back because of yeah, it's just kind of one of these things that happen when you're drying out.
yeah. And it was the second time that you went and had the major incident. That's when you realised because I think the first time you said, "Oh yeah," and you sort of tried, but
See, I can't remember that. I
see
honestly can't remember that
when
relapse.
when it was a couple of weeks, I remember because first we were meant to go on a date the first time I met before I met,
Mhm.
but you were polite enough and lovely enough to say, "I'm sorry, I'm in hospital, I can't meet you." You were,
Was I?
yeah, you actually was lovely enough to explain you were in need. But
And like this is like in the very early days of when we first
yeah,
met. So
and like you, yeah, and I was like, oh, that's fine. Then we'll meet next
he's
week.
my savior.
I know. Then you said, well, I don't know. I mean, no, I said it's fine. I don't want to meet you there. You're in the hospital. It's fine. So we
Yeah.
met, and then obviously you were doing it all again, and you kept going in, and yeah, the first time when I went to see you, I phoned up the hospital. I phoned up the hotline. You phone up to get where you are, and they said you were. They said
The
you're.
hotline.
Yeah,
Yeah, phone the hotline to get through to Will.
yeah. It was the hospital hotline, and like,
Call 0898 to speak to Will from their hospital bed.
oh yeah, get your desires.
0898.
Yeah, I and then I phoned up right, and they told me that they told me that for sorry, Will Venus, Will Venus for I, and then what happened was there was another person with the same name, and then
Same name as me.
yeah, and I got
Oh,
discharged.
how dare they?
But then I text you, but then obviously I'm not being stupid texting you, is like saying someone who's me at the dentist high on the gas because you didn't know what was going on, and you were
Right.
saying like oh, but I'm away, I, and you didn't know where you were. But anyway, then when I did see you that day, you were in the Hyde, I think was it no Hyde Pint, where it was, you were like really know what it like when a gran had meningitis over 10 years ago.
But delirious.
So leaders, yeah, you were like that because she was seeing things. She was seeing rabbits or whatever it was behind the bed.
Well, I mean, I did have this glorious thing called morphine. It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
It was great.
you were there, but yeah, and then and it
I
was
don't
like
recommend abusing it.
no, you were there, and then obviously, yeah, and the fact you were, and you always don't remember because obviously you were in that thing. So yeah, and you went a couple of times, and you've
Yeah, so like kind of backtracking a bit from that. Once I'd dried out and things, I'd started to develop even more of the pancreatitis, and for about a year or two, I was in and out of hospital because it would go in like this cycle. I'd get I'm talking excruciating pains where I just wanted. I like the pain was excruciating. I would phone for an ambulance. That would take about 4 hours to come because I'm not a priority. Then I would go to the hospital and wait another 4 hours before I was given morphine. And I would have things like my I would have things like my kidney function tested and then be given like these drips of fluid, antibiotics. It would kind of simmer down for a bit. I go back home, then it would flare up again, and it was just a nightmare. And so, yeah, I was very familiar with the back of an ambulance. Uh, where was I going with that? Yeah, I know we're a bit jumpy, but we're autistic and possibly ADHD, so we do kind of go on tangents and back and forth. So please bear with us. Uh, yeah, have you anything to add
yeah.
about that?
So I remember one night, you were in that much pain. We phoned was it just
Because
20?
like whilst I was always in this pain, I'm thinking, is this really fucking worth it? All this pain to be just be sober? I'm better going drinking again. That's how bad the pain was.
Yeah, I remember I was like I was going to say that I was slept in the living room and where you're sitting up because making sure you're right because you were in that much pain. You were going to phone the just 24,
Mhm.
but it subsided the next day. But the you were grateful. Obviously, I did that because obviously to make sure you're right there. And it's like it must have been hell.
Yeah, because like at this stage we were basically just starting to get to know each other.
Yeah, that was in July because I had got the job at a certain green supermarket, lime green supermarket
Yeah.
at the time. I'll not mention what it is, you'll know. But yeah, and then that happened, eh? Because we were going to go and see the movie as well. It was Fab.
Yeah, Abfab the movie. Yeah, which we did go to see. I can remember bits of that, and I remember how one of my wigs I was wearing at the time I'd styled it so it would look like Eddie Monsoon's hair,
Yeah, you
and it
did.
was really good. Yeah, but I was
Aye.
painfully thin. Uh,
And I'm grateful as well that my Nora Grant actually took you to some of the appointments as well in the car. It was nice because
yeah,
she cared.
and I remember one of the stays in the hospital where God, they had to catheterize me. I don't know if it's the humiliation or the feeling of, because when you're catheterized for someone who has male appendage, you constantly feel like you need to go to the toilet, but you don't need to go to the toilet
Oh, okay, cause yeah.
because it's in there. And like there was
Oh.
like the bag of piss that was at the side of the bed, and
Well,
oh,
I know what it's I know what
a funny story actually. There was a guy that was next to me, and like in the ward, And the nurse said when she was putting this catheter in this guy, and the nurse said to him, and she wasn't sly or subtle about it at all. And she went, "Has your foreskin always been like that?" What?
I have experience with catheters and like what's bags, the colostomy bags, because I used to
No,
work.
colostomy bag is when you can't
Ah,
when your body can't excrete waste
oh,
through the colon. It's that.
anyway,
It's just a bag that collected piss.
anyway, I worked in the care home, so I had got some experience with that.
Yeah, yeah. So there was that. Uh, and like the nurses kept coming to me and saying, "Will you just eat? Will you please just eat?" And like I am, because if you think about it, I hadn't really had food properly for about a whole year,
Yeah.
so my stomach had shrunk so much I could only take like teaspoons of food at a time.
And they should know that because they are a medical profession.
Yeah, and then any time I had more than that, I would just spew it up because my stomach just didn't have
I
the
know
room.
that. I know that's like having a reflux, and I know that's like
Yeah,
not fun.
like oh god, those endless nights in hospital when because I'm a really light sleeper, and so like I had all the noises of people snoring, people calling off buzzers, people just people. Yeah, that was grim. And so we get to the maybe about 2018.
Mm.
That's when I really decided I wanted to work out why I was drinking because although I was clean and sober, I didn't want to go back to that, and I personally wanted to make sure I didn't revisit that. So what? I mean, I've had many therapies. It's taken such a long time and effort to get to be me. But what was the first thing that I,
One of the
I
first
did?
one was cruise, I'd say.
The cruise bereavement.
Yeah, because you wanted to figure out if it was someone be your mum and your grandparents or not.
No, it was before that. That was 2019
Ah, okay.
because that was the same year. That was that was the year we got married. Remember,
Yeah,
it was the same street,
yeah.
and that was 2019.
I think it's just going to the doctor and figuring out what to do because obviously we didn't know much back then and what things are available.
No, yeah, that was it.
Palms in place.
It's coming back to me now. It's all coming back
To
to
me
me.
now.
It was 2018 was a year when I really sorted the pain
Yeah.
because I'm still in pain now. I'm still left with chronic pain, but even more so then. That was the year when we really had to sort what pain relief was going to work, what foods were going to work for me, and just because I'd literally I had no life, and I had to rebuild what I
Mhm.
thought I wanted my life to look like,
Yeah.
whilst at the same time getting to know you.
Yeah, of course.
Can you remember that?
Yeah, I can. And remember, like, no, you couldn't have. Remember, you couldn't have like, really spicy stuff because that really affected your pain and
Yeah,
that.
or really greasy or fatty foods because I think your pancreas produces the enzymes to break down fat,
Yeah.
and of course I don't think your liver copes well with fats and things as well because my liver had taken a beating as well,
Not as
alcohol and
much, but
things.
yeah, it was more that.
And I was still going back and forth to hospital for scans and things, and one of those scans it showed that I had cysts on my pancreas, and that was probably uh, the reason for the pain.
Yeah, I
And
remember that.
but nowadays, like no one seems to know why I'm still getting the chronic pain, but it's been suggested that my pancreas still has scarring,
It probably will
and
too.
that'll take time to go away if ever.
It will eventually.
But yeah, so did the pain relief thing, got the eating under control, and I remember going to your grand's house
Mm.
and using her scales, and I was like, "Oh my god, I've got great news! I've put on a stone."
Yeah, and it was great.
I've put on many more stones since then, and I'm trying to get back from that. But I wasn't. I know, yeah, we're jumping back and forward, but I wasn't given the tools to rein in my diet
No,
again
because the doctor just
because
said,
they just said eat it whatever you like as long as you put on weight.
yeah, but that doesn't help when you've got to the right weight.
Yeah,
But I mean, that's something we should maybe have realised ourselves. But at the time,
yeah. I what's it people say? I own that.
yeah,
Oh, I hate
exactly.
when people say
Yeah,
I own that. Yeah, I do take responsibility for that, but it would be nice to get support put in
yeah,
place.
because you're in a vulnerable place at the time,
Yeah,
and it's not really your in the forefront. You just want to get better. You don't
yeah,
realise
and
what's
I'm
wrong.
not a therapist. You're
No,
not a therapist.
no, we're not.
I wasn't given in. Oh no, I'd given up smoking as well.
Yeah, at the same time, yeah, and you started e-cigging it, so yeah, it was
Yeah, I
yeah,
still do e-cigs because I enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's not that bad.
Well, some might disagree, but I enjoy it. It's not as anywhere near as harmful as smoking tobacco. And yeah, so then we get to 2019. I did the cruise bereavement therapy because I'd lost various family members and I wanted to work through that because I was still having, yeah, I was still very sad and angry and guilty and all the feelings and things. And I kind of realized that I was drinking because I wanted. Well, there was two things mainly from my perspective. I wanted to get away from the bad feelings, which I realized you just can't
Can't,
do.
no, you've got
You
to
have to work
face
through
them.
them. And I don't know if it's because back then I didn't know I was autistic, but I didn't know how to feel.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to get joy from things. I didn't know how to appreciate things. I didn't know how to just feel, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm the same sometimes.
Oh, it's nice to know I'm not alone with that then.
No, I'm the same. That you don't feel how like. Well, when my granddad passed away, I've not grieved properly because I don't know how to. I'm still angry more than anything else because of the
Hmm.
lockdowns and stuff. But the same thing.
Yeah, and then we get yeah, so we get married in 2019. I can't remember we couldn't go on honeymoon shortly after that for some reason, and then of course 2020. But then
Yeah,
what
but
happens then?
we did go on holiday in 2018 though, which was
Yeah, we
funny.
did. That was well, we've talked about going to Italy in a previous episode, so you can check that out to listen to our escapades. Uh, and then we get to 2020, and then what happens?
We were meant to go to Sorrento and go on a wee land train,
Yeah,
go to
we were meant to go
Bolzano,
on a nice honeymoon back to Italy.
but it never happened.
No,
Even
because
got
the
even got grandmother, I think, little grandmother, jealous of our hotel because they were going a couple of weeks after or before I think it
yeah.
was, and they were jealous of the hotel. So yeah.
So yeah, that's when then 2020 hit. Then March happened. Then the whole world is plunged into chaos,
Darkness,
terror, darkness, panic, uh,
misery,
yeah, misery, all of the above. And
misery.
yeah, and so that gets to the point where I wanted to work on something else. So previous to 2019, I couldn't even record my own voicemail
No.
or look at myself in the mirror. Nothing. And so I worked on that, and here we are. I'm now a YouTuber and podcaster. And the way that I did that was I kind of recorded bits and bobs of my own voice on my phone, then listened to them back.
And it helps.
And I got used to my own voice because I was always scared. Because, you know, like when you're in school and things, especially when you grow up in the 90s and early 2000s, you're like, if you've got a feminine voice or you've got a gay voice, quote unquote gay voice, it's not a good thing.
No, because people take
But then,
misery of it.
yeah, and then now I realise I'm fine. I've got a nice voice and
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do about it, and I wouldn't want to really. And I'm also told that I've got quite a calming, soothing, kind voice.
Yeah.
So I worked on that, and then working on seeing myself in video, so I worked through that. But then we got to like the whole of 2020 was like for the both of us, I think, like self improvement because we'd started watching and listening to Emma Kenny's
Yeah.
mental health
And I
clinics.
got and I got my late diagnosis group for 8 weeks, or 9 weeks through
Yeah,
that
your virtual for
autism.
your autism.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because what happened was the person who was doing it, who diagnosed me, and Will actually, wasn't the first in Edinburgh to get COVID, so he had to cancel, and it was kind of a bit of a chaotic thing. And the
yeah,
one thing I'm laughing about, I tried to get my bus pass before, because I've got a blue bus pass, and here in
yeah.
Scotland,
It's about the only perk that we have for
yeah,
being autistic. We get a bus
free bus,
pass.
yeah. I had to wait months because they couldn't give it to me because the other office who was going to do it were not in because of the whole shambles of the lockdown.
Yeah, I mean everything was just chaotic for everyone. But
Yeah.
we'd started watching Emma Kenny's clinic. She's a psychologist who's been on ITV's this morning.
Who we met
She's
a few weeks ago?
yes, we did, and it was fabulous.
Yeah.
She's one of our heroes because for like the advice that she gave us and her expertise that we got within like weeks of watching
Yeah.
our clinics and things, it's taken decades
Yeah,
from our own
especially for
healthcare,
me, yeah.
and it's just I mean, it's just as little as giving someone that key to like there you
Open
go.
the door.
That's how you work through this,
Yeah.
and that's how you overcome.
Aye, I know it's crazy. Like she will help me with things in 5 minutes, and no one could really help in 20 something years. It's like it just takes that one
Yeah,
person just to.
just to listen,
Yeah.
because that's the thing that I've always said about you. When I was going through my alcoholism, you listened and you didn't judge,
No,
and
but
you didn't say, "Well, you should be doing this or you should be doing that."
you know what that was?
I don't know.
Because I knew what I mean. I knew it wasn't you. You know what? I work at a place, right? I'm not mentioning a retail shop. And yesterday there was a thieves and there was people trying to steal some certain products.
Yeah,
What about? And they were arguing with my manager, like arguing like, "Oh, I didn't steal that, didn't I? I got, but I just saw you something, right?" I don't judge people like that because at one point they could have so much trauma in their life.
yeah.
It kind of they feel that they need to do it to get away from it all. So I'm not judging anyone on it because they don't do it for the sake of doing it, do it for a reason.
I mean, I used to judge people.
But then I
I
think,
used to judge people like, "Oh, look at the state of them. They're drinking or junkies. What a mess."
yeah, but it's not their fault
But then when
most
you
of the time.
think, yeah, because I mean, several doctors have said to me, no one chooses to be an addict.
They've got things in their life that make them go like that
I
because
mean, I
it's
don't care what
trying to
anyone
escape of
says.
them.
If anyone's like drinking to oblivion, you don't have to drink every day to be an alcoholic.
Yeah, I know, and I don't agree that like drug addicts and a lot of people who do sell like petty crimes get put in prison and like left because obviously it's not their fault. They just got trauma
Yeah,
and they need support rather than getting told they're getting doing bad things.
yeah, and of
Then,
course,
yeah.
and then I think in 2021 I got my. It was like I had to wait 2 years for it. It was like a one-to-one psycho psychological therapist
Oh yeah.
worked through other trauma that I don't really want to mention on here. Not that I'm ashamed of it. It's just I feel it's private to me.
Yeah.
So I did that. Um, but yeah, just why is it why is it people don't seem to have like that level of empathy for people?
Because because
Oh,
they're
sorry, is Am I
sorry,
boring you, dear?
sorry, no, because they're brought up religious. Certain religions don't agree and things all taboo this sort of thing and think they have to abide by what their God tells them and
Yeah,
think
but I
it's all
mean, not
wrong.
all religious people are like that.
No, I know, but a lot of them who are like really devout into it that so
Yeah,
much they believe everything that their book says, and I think they need to realize that they need to step
I
back
mean,
from
I
that.
mean, we both know that people that are really religious and they're not like that at all.
Yeah, we do, but there's a lot of people who are like that, and like especially say in America, if you're say you've got like say autism or something, or you're got drug problems, you're just put in prison. You're not.
Yeah, it's not treated like a health thing; it's a
No.
criminal thing,
Yeah,
which is
and
mad.
yeah, I know. And so they get traumatized because thinking they've done something wrong. It's not
And
actually their fault.
then you've got like that added on top trauma of going to prison.
Yeah, because you don't know what's going on. Because you see, autistic people see the world differently. They're not going to see it. They're not going to survive because they don't know how to survive in the world a lot of the time. And it's like, how can they do that?
No,
Especially all the sense of the noise and all the light. I mean, because it's not, So
yeah, in prison it's just a it must be just such a scary place.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, where do we go from here now?
Maybe something a bit more lighter.
No, like just
Oh,
to finish the journey and things.
I think that
Oh yeah, that was it. I've
well,
missed a huge part.
well,
What bit have I missed? What's a huge part of my life, Jay?
the wigs.
Yes. So
Yes.
yeah, if you're new to this podcast, we mentioned in a previous episode that because I was so malnourished, a lot of my hair fell out. I was buying wigs because my hair wasn't growing back quick enough. They were awful, and so I decided to make them for myself. Found online classes because there was none in Scotland at all. That's where I'm based. And yeah, so nowadays I make wigs for other people that are experiencing hair loss.
Yeah, and it's great. And I mean, you're doing such a fantastic job at it all, and it's kudos to you to actually take something that affected you, then turn it around to help other people so they're not affected by it as much.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, and I understand it's such a privilege to be invited into someone's life to be able to help them. But like when I'm looking back on all these things that I've done in the last 7 years, one, I should have appreciated the journey at the time, and two, I don't feel sometimes like it's me,
Yeah,
because I sometimes think that my life is something that's happened like when I was looking the other way.
or to someone else.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I'm so proud of you about though. I know I keep saying it, but the fact is, you went on a plane for the first time and went abroad for the first time. That
yeah,
that it takes courage because there's so many people probably are stuck in their homes or flats and can't go out, and you've achieved something like that. You've better to experience other cultures, including your when
yeah.
you're better. It just makes me feel
I mean,
happy.
the Italian culture is just my culture. I just don't live there.
I know we will eventually, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
that.
So,
Yeah,
follow the pod so we can get rich,
I know.
and we'll
Yeah,
bring you the pod from Italy.
I know. It's great. No, it's great, and I mean, yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, you've done so much in the last 7 years. You've helped people. You've gained lots of new friends. You've just
Well,
been
I've just gained friends. I mean, I've always had one or two close friends, but I just, I didn't want to take that risk. I mean, my thing, it was all about not taking risks. Why? Because maybe I thought I wouldn't get much payoff from the risk, or it would blow up in my face. But that's just the risk you have to take. And also, if there's no risk, there's no growth.
no. I agree. I agree.
And I'm always saying to people, just if you've got something to share with the world, just share it. Try it. I mean, it might work, it might not. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, just if you've got a passion or a calling or something that that's just in your heart, just share it with the world.
Yeah, and I mean, how nice this person is. He makes moustaches for someone down in Scarborough.
They,
They live down in Scarborough, and they also send lots of makeup down to Scarborough, and it's like to help them do their videos better. And it's like
yeah. So it's another shout out to Alan and Jamie of Isolation Creations. We'll leave your channel link below because they've really helped us out when we felt anxious or angry or lost or whatever.
especially during the lockdown stuff. Especially
Yeah,
when trying to get you to watch them for months and months and months.
yeah. I know we talked about that in the
I know,
previous
but this has
episode, but
helped. I know.
yeah, they've been part of our journey, and it's nice to meet people that are just very similar to you, that have similar, oh, what's the word? Similar. What's the word?
Like,
Sense of humor.
then
Sense
yeah,
of humor,
yeah,
and just like the exact things that you like.
of course,
Yeah,
it's great.
and
Help. Yeah.
yeah. So, what would I say to someone that's struggling with alcohol, drugs, shopping, food, sex, and whatever else you can be addicted to? For me, the key was trying to find out what I wanted to escape from. I was trying to escape like emotional, psychological, and physical pain, but then I realised I can't escape any of those. It's something that I have to deal with, accept, and move on from. So, like my question to you, if you're someone that's struggling with addiction, or you know someone, find out what their pain is, and just be kind to them, please. Just be kind to them, because people who, I mean, I don't speak for the entire community, Where was I going with that? I keep losing my train of thought today. Maybe it's because I'm talking about something so personal. I mean, it's not them. It's just this illness called addiction, and it's friggin' awful. So just work out what your pain is, because that's it. It's pain. It's pain that you're trying to get away from, or a situation that you're trying to get away from.
It's self
What I mean, what is it at the core of it?
it's self medicating the pain, thinking
Yeah.
you and a short term release from it all, not so you don't want to work on the long term to help better because it's a quick fix.
Mhm. I'm just getting flackbacks. No, flashbacks. Can you remember the time that we were? It was one of those nights where I couldn't sleep and my legs were kicking because I was withdrawn, and I couldn't sleep and I was in pain. Can you remember that time when we sat up
Oh yeah,
all night?
oh yeah, and we
And
just
and we just,
yeah,
and I remember because we made up this game thing where
did the
we did like name a TV show and then name a situation and do it in character. Was it
yeah, and we'd
something
have
like
to
that?
encourage meeting people, yeah, like a wee verbal fan fiction, basically,
Yeah,
yeah, all night to like after 4 a.m. and it was like it helped you, yeah.
yeah.
I think if
So
that's
I mean,
not
whatever it is you've got to do just to get through it,
yeah,
just do it.
if that's not love and compassion, and love for like that kind of romantic love, it's I don't know what is.
Yeah. I mean, is there any memories you would like to share of the last 7 years?
I think I'd probably say
I mean, what I mean, I'd really like to know what is. Sorry, I'm just adjusting myself. What was it like for you having to witness that? What did it feel like?
think this traumatic a wee bit because I know it wasn't you.
Because we've never really, I mean, we've touched upon it, of course we have, we're married now, we talk all the time, but we've never really got to the specifics of, like, you witnessing this, how does this
I think
feel?
I just felt really upset and traumatized at the fact that you know that not so much that it was me, just me doing it, but that's fine. But the fact that I never really got any help with it, and the fact that doctors weren't properly helping, you didn't get this proper support, and I think all they had was
Well,
one.
mental health has always been the poor relation with the
It
NHS.
is, but I mean,
Always.
yeah, and I think that I just felt helpless because I know I couldn't do much because it's your you need to do it yourself sort of thing because it's I'm not the one giving you the drink and the cigarette. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not pouring it down your throat or putting it up in your mouth. You know the
Mhm.
lighting thing. But I'm glad when we went down to Palmerston Place, and I was always pushing. Like the one thing I'm grateful for is pushing you to go to Palmerston Place.
Yeah, it's like a help.
It's a
Oh, what would you call it? It's
it's a
like a
Thursday drop-in session
drop-in centre.
to help
Yeah.
you get the support you need and resources.
Yeah, so it's a place where you go and it's like this huge church hall and they've got stalls of everything that you could think of, like addiction, trauma, autism,
Yeah,
uh,
distracting.
dyspraxia, people who need shelter from domestic violence, advice with benefits, everything. And yeah, it was very,
Yeah,
very good going
and
there.
to know how helpful they
And I
were.
don't know why more people don't know about places like these.
Yeah, because they help. You know how they helped me a couple of times. It was I was getting help, and they diagnosed me sort of like knowing I had dyspraxia in 30 seconds, right?
Yeah,
And then when they tried to find something about it, something another time, they ran out to run down the road down where we were going, right? Or 5 minutes down the road, and they ran to give me a leaflet out the place, and that's how
yeah,
dedicated they
that's
are.
dedication for you
Yeah,
because normally people would just be like, oh, he'll come back.
yeah, and it's like, yeah, and I mean, people need to know about these places. You know what? If you're right now, right, because of obviously what happened with that emergency signal last week, right, but any other stuff, if you're feeling trapped, if you're feeling that you cannot cope, just say it to someone.
Yeah, a friend or a neighbour
Have
or
a code word.
someone in the shop
Yeah,
or the chemist,
yeah. Even
pharmacy.
if you're in Edinburgh, talk to me. I'll
Reach out.
reach out because if me and Will by doing this can help just one person. I know it's a cliche thing to help one person. You've done
No,
it.
I mean, I really don't care if this episode doesn't do well. If it just resonates with one person,
Yeah,
our job is done. And then if they get in touch, or if they don't get in touch, and it helps them somehow,
please,
then
because I you know what scares me every day.
what's that?
It's well, especially as well from last week that emergency signal. If you're in Britain, you'll know what I'm talking about. But there's how many people during lockdown and that signal on last Sunday that's going now going to be no longer here, or they're
Or
going to be
beaten
that
up or something?
traumatized,
Yeah.
and it's like, and we couldn't do anything about it because we were told not to go outside, and it's like, how can people live with that? People are living with the fact that happened and not really talking about it because they don't want to.
Because no one asked the fucking question.
No, they all they want to know, oh, how many people died of COVID and that. It's like
Yeah, but that's a discussion for
of
another
course,
episode. Yeah. Uh, and also just to let people know that none of this is easy. You know, you might look at my social media or someone else's social media and think, "Oh yeah, yeah, they've got clean and sober now. That's it." No, it's an ongoing thing that you have to do every day. Like my thing is, I have to talk to people. I have to do my meditation. I have to have things put in place that's gonna anchor me. That's gonna take away the anxiety, the stress. It's fucking hard work every day.
you just got to push for it.
It's not like a case of getting clean and then off you go. No,
You have to push for it. You have to make sure you're determined and dedicated to do it, and get help when needed. Don't do it alone. If you
no.
know, because never do things like this alone. You'll never.
Never, because it can be so dangerous and lethal.
Yeah, because you could end up
I mean,
doing
people
worse
have been known
damage.
to go into seizures and things if they've not, kept their drug levels up or their alcohol levels up or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so dangerous. So yeah, if you're considering cleaning up, getting sober, go and talk to your doctor, and yeah, reach out to people. And so before we end this podcast, Jay, is there anything else you want to say?
Just stay safe and just know you're not alone.
Yeah, no one's ever alone. And if you want to talk to people, we'll leave some details of some charities and
Organizations.
organisations,
Yeah.
you know, like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. I think there's an Eaters Anonymous.
Possibly, yeah.
I'm not too sure about, and there's Gamblers
Of
Anonymous.
course, yeah. Gamma Aware, yeah. I know that.
There's so many charities that are just so willing to listen.
Yeah, because you know what, and don't be ashamed if you're a gambler.
No, 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 it's nothing to be ashamed
No,
of. No.
if you had addiction and gamble and lost your, don't be ashamed. It's not your fault. The problem is that it's the people who do the businesses like that. It's their fault for not for advertising and being all
Yeah,
flashy all these
yeah,
bingo sites. It's not your fault.
yeah. So, I, well, we hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode of Left at Your Own Will podcast. If you have, please leave us a little review either on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, because for new podcasts, I'm just going to put it out there, getting the reviews in, it really helps to push out the podcast to other listeners. So please, if you've got the time, it doesn't have to be a long, novel, just 5 stars and a few words. That would really, 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 really help us out. And tell your friends about this podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Life at Your Own Will. Everything will be in the show notes. And yeah, we will be with you at the same time, same place next week. So I'm not going to leave any nonsensical advice because I don't feel it's appropriate, but yeah, if you're struggling, talk to someone. Take care, guys. Speak to you next week. Bye.
Bye.